Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, the 2025 NFL Draft is just days away. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we continue to cover it from every angle possible. If you have missed any of the last four podcasts, I had four tremendous guests from the industry setting the stage for the 2025 NFL Draft. I had Sigmund Bloom last Monday. Then after that, talking quarterback prospects with Corey Kinnan. Follow that up with Matt Waldman, talking about probably 15 different prospects that are polarizing players, prospects that he has higher or lower than the consensus. And then the most recent podcast, was so excited to have back on here at Saturday Sunday. It was John Ledyard. We talked about another 15 or so prospects. So between the Tier Buster series shows, when I shared my quarterback tiers and rankings, the running back tiers, the wide receiver and tight end tier shows, then I did the overall dynasty rookie ranking Superflex big board show, and then 4 episodes last week where I talked to 4 great people and great minds from the industry. We continue to have this covered wire to wire here. I have 3 podcasts left, including this one prior to the start of the NFL Draft. This will be my final rankings podcast. I will go through and share my final rankings, discuss any changes that I've made over the last month and tier jumps that I've made over the last month as I've dug into some more film and finalized my things. We'll have another episode where I talk about my guys, and that'll be guys from all positions, offense and defense, going through guys who could be first rounders, second rounders, all the way to day 3 guys who would be what I would deem as my guys that I like maybe more than the consensus or I just have a strong conviction on. And then the last episode prior to the draft will be a snippet basically of the draft projections notebook, but it'll be me projecting what I expect to happen in the NFL draft. I'll talk about the guys who I currently have as the top 32 prospects that I think are going to come off the board in round 1. I'll discuss my top 100 in terms of the prospects that I think will come off the board in the top 100, and then some other guys that'll just miss the first round, just miss the first 3 rounds. And then the NFL draft weekend, Thursday night, right after round 1, I will go live with a recap show. Right after night 2, I will recap rounds 2 and 3. And then after the NFL draft, day 3, I will recap what happened rounds 4 through 7. Also, within 24 hours or so of the NFL draft finishing, I will also share my dynasty rookie rankings, and then there'll be recap episodes going through and analyzing every team's draft. There'll be guests from the industry. We do not turn the page here at Saturday to Sunday, probably until like late July before we turn the page to the next wave of prospects. So while most podcasts you listen to that cover the NFL draft, they'll recap it the weekend of, maybe a couple weeks after the draft. We will cover every single angle of the NFL draft, their fantasy lens, how they fit in terms of real team fits and scheme fits and values and stuff like that. We will cover every aspect of the NFL draft over the next couple of months here before we turn the page sometime in July to the next class of prospects, starting to talk about the 2026 players. But what we're doing tonight, final rankings, getting us ready for the 2025 NFL draft. So let's get right into it. I'm going to share my rankings. I'm going to start with the quarterbacks. So my quarterback rankings at number 1 has not changed since last summer. That is Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Number 2 is Cameron Ward out of Miami. Number 3 is Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. Number 4 is Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Number 5 is Tyler Shook out of Louisville. Number 6 is Quinn Ewers out of Texas. Number 7 is Will Howard out of Ohio State. Number 8 is Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. Number 9 is Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. And number 10 is Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame. I'm going to cut it off there. Those are the 10 actual true quarterbacks that I think are going to be drafted. Guys like Max Brosmer, Curtis Rourke are the next 2 on my list, rounding out my top 12. I do think there's a realistic scenario that we do hear an 11th quarterback taken, and I do think that is going to be the versatile Tommy Mellott out of Montana State, who's going to be a hybrid Taysom Hill or a wide receiver convert like Julian Edelman was. But in terms of they're my top 10, Brosmer and Curtis Rourke are the 11th and 12th guys that I think could be drafted. That would make up my 11th and 12th guys. The rest of the guys are UDFA prospects. But if we're talking about my rankings, this is the one area where there really hasn't been any changes. For me, Sanders and Cam Ward are my only tier 1 guys. They're guys that I think should go round 1. I think are starting quarterbacks. I don't think any of them are worthy of maybe going, they're not the level of last year where we had Drake May, Jane Daniels, and Caleb Williams, but I do think Sanders and Cam Ward are on the same level, if not higher, than JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. So I think they're worthy of going round 1. Anybody who knows a Giants fan knows my take on Shedeur Sanders. I think he could be a very Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Tua type quarterback. A solid starting quarterback. Would I take that over Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? I personally wouldn't, because I think you're still going to be looking for an upgrade to get to the next level. That I would take one of the blue chip prospects. My tier 2 has not changed. That's still Milroe, Dart, and Tyler Shook. I'm most intrigued by Jalen Milroe. He's been my QB per read the entire time because the ceiling with him is so much higher than anybody else in this tier, and you can make the case the tier for Jalen Milroe is higher than even Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. If he puts it together, we're talking about a guy who could be what Jalen Hurts is, where I think a guy like Cam Ward, his ceiling might be like a Jordan Love type player, and Sanders, I kind of talked about what I think he can materialize in that Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Tua type world is what I think of him as well. So that's why I could see why Jalen Milroe might have the highest ceiling over anybody. I know Tyler Shook is getting a lot of buzz. The Giants have been connected with him. Cleveland's been connected with him. New Orleans has been connected with him. The Rams have been connected with him. That he could very well be a late first to top of the second type player. There's aspects of Tyler Shook's game that I really do like a lot. It's the size and the frame. The physical traits are really intriguing. The arm talent. He's got some untapped athleticism that I think is a little sneaky, but there's things in terms of him handling pressure. Very rattled by pressure. For a guy as old as he is, you would think that he's better at adept at handling pressure, but I've seen a guy who really is rattled and struggles when facing pressure. That is a little bit of a concern to me. Obviously, the injuries and durability, I don't like to judge that too much, but we are talking about a guy who's going to be a 26-year-old rookie, a guy who backed up Justin Herbert at Oregon once upon a time. So what is the ceiling of a guy like Tyler Shook, right? You would expect him to come in and start pretty quickly, I think, if you believe in him because of his age already. Overall, longevity, I'm not too worried about. Quarterbacks play well into their mid to late 30s. So we're talking about if he was good and he did hit, he could easily have a 10, 12-year career. So those are still my guys in tier 2. Those are the guys who I think definitively should go in the top 100. I do think we'll see, whether it's Quinn Ewers or Will Howard or Kyle McCord, we'll see one or two of them sneak in. I think if you're shooting for the highest ceiling, that's Quinn Ewers. But if you're a guy who, if he becomes a really good, solid backup, maybe a little bit more, I think that could be a guy like Will Howard. We saw the best of Will Howard down the stretch of this year. If we're looking for a traditional pocket passing quarterback as like a backup quarterback spot starter, I think that could be Kyle McCord. So those are the guys that I think warrant kind of going in that late round 3, but preferably early round 4 to round 5. And then guys like Riley Leonard would be a guy I would be comfortable like 6th, 7th round. I do think there's some buzz that he could be a 4th or 5th rounder, but I'd be more comfortable at the end of the round. So that's kind of how I see my quarterback rankings and my quarterback tiers. Let's take this over to the running back. My number 1 running back, still Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. Number 2 is Omarion Hampton out of UNC. Number 3 is Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Number 4 is Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. Number 5 is Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. Number 6 is Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Number 7 is Cam Scatterbo out of Arizona State. Number 8 is RJ Harvey out of UCF. Number 9 is Blayshul Tudin out of Virginia Tech. Number 10 is DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. Number 11 is Jordan James out of Oregon. Number 12 is Devin Neal out of Kansas. Number 13 is Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. Number 14 is Jaden Blue out of Texas. Number 15 is Brashard Smith out of SMU. Number 16 is Damian Martinez out of Miami. Number 17 is Jokavius Woody Marks out of USC. Number 18 is LaQuint Allen out of Syracuse. Number 19 is Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. Number 20 is Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. Number 21 is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt out of Arizona. Number 22 is Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn. 23 is Raheem Sanders out of South Carolina. Number 24 is Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. Number 25 is Marcus Yarns out of Delaware. Number 26 is Kyle Monange out of Rutgers. Number 27 is Montel Johnson Jr. out of Florida. At number 28 is Khalil Mullings out of Michigan. Number 29 is Phil Maffa out of Clemson. And number 30 is Ulysses Bentley IV out of Ole Miss. Most of those guys to the late 20s, I have draftable grades on. The other guys I think are probably UDFA guys. Not a lot of changes here, but a couple things that did change and I did want to acknowledge. In my tier 1 now, which I think tier 1 for me is guys that I think should go in round 1, I have made TreVeyon Henderson a tier jumper. So I talked about this in the Tier Buster show that TreVeyon Henderson sat atop my tier 2. I have now moved him up to my tier 1. Do I think there's a separation between Ashton Genty and TreVeyon Henderson? Of course I do. But in my tier 1 here is guys that I think should go round 1. Ashton Genty is top 5, 6 player in this draft. I've been on record as saying I think New England should take him at 4 if Hunter and Abdul Carter go 2 and 3 because he's a blue chip player. And I don't think the difference between offensive tackle, if they can get their hands on Josh Simmons or Josh Connerly in the top of the second, paired with Ashton Genty at 4, I think that's a better play for New England than taking Will Campbell at 4 and taking a running back at the top of the second. Just my personal preference. So yes, Ashton Genty belongs in the top 10. Omarion Hampton, TreVeyon Henderson, I think they belong in the 20 to 32 range, but I did move up TreVeyon Henderson into that tier 1. I was a huge Devin A-Chain fan when he came out. I was a huge Jahmyr Gibbs fan when he came out. I think TreVeyon Henderson could be utilized in a very similar way and be a playmaking big play waiting to happen. Similar, excuse me. Similar to Devin A-Chain and Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe he's not as skilled as Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think coming out, he's just as skilled as Devin A-Chain. Maybe he doesn't have that instant acceleration and burst, but he's got big-time speed. He's the best pass protector in the class. He can impact the game in between the tackles running on the outside. He could be a weapon in the pass game. I think a team is going to fall in love with TreVeyon Henderson the same way I have, which is why I think he warrants going in round 1. He could be a high-impact 15 to 16 touch player a game once he gets acclimated to the NFL. My next tier, small change in that tier. While I moved TreVeyon Henderson up to tier 1, I did move somebody from my tier 3 who jumped up into tier 2, and that is Cam Skattebo. He's one of my guys. I'll talk about him on the My Guy episode as well. Same thing with Dylan Sampson, another one of my guys. But I moved Skattebo up because I think his versatility to impact the game as a receiver and as a runner, short yardage, good short area quickness to pick up extra yards, add that contact balance. I think he could be very much a David Montgomery, James Conner type player, but even be more versatile. So if you're telling me late second or early third, I think a guy who could have a career like James Conner and David Montgomery and an impact, I think he's worked that to an offense. And I think there's even more versatility and higher upside than Montgomery or Conner for a player like Cam Skattebo. So he moved up from my tier 3 into my tier 2. He's my 7th overall running back. The rest of that tier stayed the same with Dylan Sampson, Judkins, and Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson, if you're a zone run team, outside zone, Caleb Johnson probably jumps up spots in these rankings. If you're more of an interior power type running team, Quinshon Judkins might jump up a couple slots. Dylan Sampson, I think, offers enough versatility to do inside, outside. To me, he's a similar prospect to James Cook when he was coming out. I think he could be utilized in a similar way at the next level. I think his receiving is better than maybe the production has shown. So I do think that's something that could be impactful from him at that level. My next tier is that really big tier that these are guys who I think are, late round 3 or mid round 3 through round 4. I moved things around a little bit. I did move up Blake Shelton over DJ Giddens and Jordan James. For me, it was just they were very closely knit. They're obviously in the same tier. They've been in the same tier. But the more I watched of each of them, I just thought the ceiling and the upside of Tudor with that big playability warranted moving him up to right below RJ Harvey, who I think has very similar in terms of that big playability. Giddens and James, I think I like their games very much. They're still where they were. Same thing with Devin Neal. But I thought Tudor had a little bit more big play explosiveness, and that was my difference, my tiebreaker, so to speak, in terms of ranking those guys there at the back end of my top 10 into my early teens. So that's why Tudor moved up a little bit right there. Then it was really hard ranking the Jaden Blue, Rashard Smith, Trevor Etienne, Damian Martinez group. To me, this is very much what are you looking for in this tier? If you tell me you have a space player, if you have a good pass catching running back, then Damian Martinez goes up 4 or 5 spots in these rankings, and he goes right behind Devin Neal. If you're telling me you have more of a bigger physical interior runner, well, then I think Jaden Blue, Brashard Smith, or Trevor Etienne is the better way to kind of go that, because I think those guys offer more versatility in terms of being a pass weapon and a big play weapon. So I really do think it depends on what you have on your roster and what you're looking for. To me, the big physical, tough interior type runners, those are easier to find than the space player, big playability, like a guy like Jaden Blue or Brashard Smith. We have guys like that every year, but I do think we always have a plethora of tough physical interior runners, where I think a guy like Jaden Blue, his receiving ability is an X factor, his instant acceleration an X factor. Brashard Smith, the former wide receiver, converted running back. We saw that work out really well for Tyrone Tracy last year. Trevor Etienne obviously got the bloodlines, big time athleticism as well. Hasn't had an opportunity to really put up a stellar collegiate season, but I think he's got the talent to do that and could be a big weapon and doesn't need a lot of touches, ground and pound. I think he could be a big time player with 10 to 12 touches. So that's why I have Etienne, Blue, and Smith ahead of a guy like Damian Martinez, ahead of a guy like Ollie Gordon. But if you're telling me you have that space player, then I could easily see moving up Damian Martinez, moving up Ollie Gordon, and pushing down all those Trevor Etienne, Jaden Blue, Brashard Smith, Woody Marks types, and making sure we have all these more physical guys above them. In the next tier, I did have a small change in this tier. I moved Taj Brooks to the top of this tier. Originally, he was behind Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Jarquez Hunter, but I moved him above those guys. There's just a lot to like about Taj Brooks. And when I went through my notes and I watched more film on him, all I saw was positives. And then when he had that athletic testing at the combine, that was one of my bigger concerns, but he showed that there's more juice. He showed that he's got more big playability. So I moved Taj Brooks ahead of Krosky-Merritt, ahead of Jarquez Hunter, as a guy who I think would be an ideal complement if you have that space player. If you have that good pass catching running back, I think Taj Brooks can be a very good 1-2 duo at the next level with somebody like that. I think the Giants in like round 5, where they already have Tyrone Tracy, they have a lot of other needs to fill, but they want to make sure they get a running back in this deep running back class. I think you got a guy like Taj Brooks and you pair him with Tyrone Tracy. It's a really interesting 1-2 dynamic, and you probably have your running back situated for a couple years with those two at the top of your depth chart. So I think those are probably the biggest changes that I had in terms of movement in my rankings and in my tiers. Let's take this to the wide receiver position. So at the wide receiver position, here are my rankings at the wide receiver position. Number 1 is Travis Hunter out of Colorado. Number 2 is Ted McMillan out of Arizona. Number 3 is Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Number 4 is Matthew Golden out of Texas. Number 5 is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. Number 6 is Jalen Dole out of Iowa State. Number 7 is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Number 8 is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. Number 9 is Jack Besh out of TCU. Number 10 is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Number 11 is Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Number 12 is Isaiah Bond out of Texas. Number 13 is Savion Williams out of TCU. Number 14 is Alec Iomanner out of Stanford. Number 15 is Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Number 16 is Dante Jordan Jr. out of Tennessee. Number 17 is Tej Johnson out of Oregon. Number 18 is Jalen Lane out of VTech. Number 19 is Ty Felton out of Maryland. Number 20 is Dominic Lovett out of Georgia. Number 21 is Chamari Dike out of Florida. Number 22 is Elijah Badger out of Florida. Number 23 is Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. Number 24 is Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. Number 25 is Pat Bryan out of Illinois. Number 26 is Nick Nash out of San Jose State. Number 27 is Brew McCoy out of Tennessee. Number 8 is Jimmy Horn out of Colorado. Number 29 is Isaiah Nair out of Arkansas. And number 30 is Anthony Armstrong out of Arkansas. I'll cut it off there. I do have more ranked after that. Guys like Corey Brooks, Daquan Felton, Sam Brown, Ricky White, Keandre Lambert-Smith, LaJohntay Webster, Jordan Watkins, Arian Smith. I have all the way ranked down to 54. But I'm going to stop there right around that 30 mark. Just, you can look at the notebooks if you want to see the rest of them. But I think those are the 30 guys or so. And then if you want to add in, Ja'Cory Brooks, Daquan Felton, Sam Brown, Ricky White, Keandre Lambert-Smith, that would be my top 35. LaJohntay Webster, 36. I think those we're going to probably see early 30s in terms get drafted. So I think Keandre Lambert-Smith, LaJohntay Webster, Aaron Smith, Jordan Watkins, they have a chance to get drafted there late in the draft. Things that stood out here, a couple small changes since I did the Tier Buster show. The one thing is I did move Emeka Egbuka into my tier 1. So now my tier 1 does consist of 5 guys. But I'll say the same thing I said about running back. To me, there's Travis Hunter, like there's Ashton Genty. Top 2, top 3, top 4 player in this draft. For me, Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. Then Ted McMillan, Luther Bird, and Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, they remind me so much of the Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Quinshon Junkins type year and Jackson Smith and Najigba year, right? 4 other guys were in my tier 1. I was not as high on Quinton Johnson as others, but those 4 guys, all I think worthy of going like in the 20s. I do think Ted McMillan, maybe his ceiling is a little bit higher, but I've said it before. To me, Ted McMillan is much more Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton than he is T. Higgins, Drake London. So to me, I like Ted McMillan. I think you could run an offense through him, but I don't think he's got the my ball mentality and plays up to his physicality as much as a guy like T. Higgins or a guy like Drake London. I think he could be a really good player like Cortland Sutton or Michael Pittman, but I just don't see that high-level ceiling. So if somebody wants to have Luther Burden, who I've compared to DJ Moore, some people might say Stephon Diggs, I could easily see Luther Burden being somebody's number 1 wide receiver after Travis Hunter. Matthew Golden, a little bit of a one-year wonder coming from Houston to Texas. I don't think he plays to that 4.29 speed, but he's a really good route runner. He could still get even better in that regard. He can win at all 3 levels of the field. And then Emeka Egbuka, really solid, just guy I think could play outside or even better in the slot, could have a high volume of opportunities in there in the slot. I think all of them kind of deserve to go in that 20 to 32 range after Travis Hunter. So I did move him up to that. In that next tier, a couple movement, I did move Kyle Williams up to number 10 overall in my rankings and pushing down Trey Harris because I just like Kyle Williams' game better. What I look for, I gravitate more towards guys who can win in a variety of ways, can win at all 3 levels of the field, can be a weapon after the catch, but could also win vertically. And I like separators. And to me, that is Kyle Williams. So I like Kyle Williams' game. That's why I moved him up a little bit. Jaden Higgins, a little bit lower on my rankings compared to some. I like his teammate better. Jalen Noel, I think, is somewhere in that Josh Downs to Christian Kirk to Ladd McConkey spectrum. And those are all players that I've thought really highly of as they were coming into the draft and at the NFL level. I think Jalen Royals is one of the underrated and underappreciated wide receivers in this class. I comp them very similar to a Jaden Reed coming out. I know Jaden Reed's been up and down a little bit, but that's the kind of player I compare him to. Jaden Higgins, I think, is better as a power slot more than he is as an outside vertical receiver. But I think he could do a little bit of both. I just don't want him pigeonholed as that true alpha outside X wide receiver like Keon Coleman. I don't think that's where he shines. Love Jack Bash, the versatility that he offers, the route running. He's a weapon with his play strength to create yards after the catch as well. Really good receiver there. And then rounding out this, I think I moved Alec Iomanner up into that tier, so he's right there with Savion Williams. I think while Savion Williams is more raw and unrefined, him and Alec Iomanner, if you just look at their best highlight reels, look like they should be top 5, top 6 wide receivers in this class. But there's a lot of development, a lot of ball skills and improvement needed in terms of Savion Williams and Alec Iomanner. In the next tier, not a lot of movement here, but I did make sure I moved up Isaac Tesla into this tier. I'm intrigued by him, intrigued by Elijah Badger and Shamiri Dike and Dominic Lovett. All of these guys at the end of this tier, really intriguing to me. So I thought Tesla warranted being in this group, similar to DK and Elijah Badger and Dominic Lovett, but not a lot of movement amongst this. It stayed pretty much the same there from Torrey Horton straight down through with just the addition of Isaac Tesla. And then in that last tier, it goes from Xavier Restrepo, Pat Bryant, all the way down to LaJohntay Webster, Keandre Lambert-Smith, those guys who I think have a shot to be drafted in terms of the 2025 NFL draft. Let's spin this over to the tight ends and talk about my rankings at the tight ends. My number 1 tight end is Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Number 2 is Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Number 3 is Mason Taylor out of LSU. Number 4 is Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. Number 5 is Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. Number 26 is Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. Number 27 is Gunnar Helm out of Texas. Number 8 is Thomas Fedone II out of Nebraska. Number 9 is Oronde Gadsden II out of Syracuse. Number 10 is Jake Bridenstool out of Clemson. Number 11 is Joshua Simon out of South Carolina. Number 12 is Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame. Number 13 is Luke Lachey out of Iowa. Number 14 is Jalen Conyers out of Texas Tech. Number 15 is Gavin Bartholomew out of Pittsburgh. Number 16 is Malachi Matavo out of UCLA. Number 17 is Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech. Number 18 is CJ Dupree out of Alabama. Number 19 is Caden Priestcorn out of Ole Miss. And number 20 is Brant Keith out of Utah. Couple adjustments here. I don't remember from the Tier Buster show. I might have had Tyler Warren ahead of Colson Loveland, but I did flip-flop them. I talked about how close it was. The more and more I watch these guys, I love Tyler Warren, the player. But I think the projecting to the next level is a little bit easier for Colston Loveland, who just knows how to separate, knows how to get open. I think he could be a focal point of an offense very quickly. I think if he had J.J. McCarthy this year or a more competent quarterback play, I think Colston Loveland might be looked at as the clear tight end one in this class, not after Tyler Warren. I know Warren had that great production this year. He's a great player. I know he's got versatility. I love a lot about him. I think both of these guys should go in the top 14 picks of the 2025 NFL draft. But I just think that Loveland's transition is a little bit easier to see in terms of high level than for Tyler Warren. But the biggest adjustment is I moved another guy into my tier one. I talked about how close it was last time I talked tight ends, but Mason Taylor is now in my tier one. I think he warrants going in round one. I have said it for months now that I think Mason Taylor is closer to Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren than he is to Harold Fannin and Terrence Ferguson. I know not a lot of people look at it that way. I know a lot of people in the analytic side of things is definitely not going to look at it that way. But in terms of evaluating traits, in terms of guys who I think will be better pros than college players, I think Mason Taylor could be a special player. I think he's got everything you want to be a high caliber tight end at the next level. So I think he warrants going round one. I fear as a Giant fan that he ends up with Philadelphia at the end of round one, and he could just be a plug and play. They can move on from Dallas Goedert, and Mason Taylor could be a high impactful player for them. I think his best is yet to come. So I did move him into that tier. My second tier now is just Arroyo, Fannin, and Ferguson. I think all of those guys weren't coming off the board on day two. I do think Elijah Arroyo was much more early to mid round two, while I think Ferguson and Fannin Jr. are much more mid round three to late round three in terms of where I think they should come off the board. In my tier three, not a lot of movement. Gunnar Helm, Fedone, Gadsden, Brittenstool, Simon, Evans, and Lachey. Those are guys I think could be, round 4, round 5 type prospects. I think Gunnar Helm is the most intriguing, and Thomas Fedone. I like Fedone's complete package, the athleticism, the size. Gunnar Helm, obviously, we don't know about the testing, was just the injury. But Gunnar Helm's the guy that looked the best on film, but Fedone's the guy that has the best traits in terms of possibly transitioning to the next level. So those are my other guys of real note and interest at the tight end position. So there it is, final rankings at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. Final tier changes to kind of set the stage for the 2025 NFL draft. In the My Guys episode, I'm going to talk defensive side too, rather than sharing all my rankings here and stretching this out. I'll kind of go through some of my defensive rankings in the next episode when I do the My Guys. I'll go through the offensive guys, share my guys from the offensive side, and then I'll do some of my guys on the defensive side and also share some of my rankings from the defensive positions as well. And then obviously last pod, setting the stage for projecting the draft in terms of how I expect it to come off the board in round one, rounds 1 through 3. And obviously if you get the notebooks, my projection on who I think is going to be all 257 picks in the NFL draft. If you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, ssfootball.com. Fastest and easiest way to get there. For $9.99, you get all of our premium content. You get the scouting notebook, 100 detailed player profiles, strengths, functional areas, developmental areas, how they win, NFL roles, scheme fit, fantasy spin, draft projection, all of that. You get the rankings notebook. It has my draft rankings by film. It has my tiered rankings. It has my current dynasty rookie rankings, superflex, big board rankings. It has our Devy rankings. It'll have our positional dynasty overall rankings, which will be updated after the NFL draft. And I'll change it all based on free agency in the draft. Live in real time, the weekend of the draft, you'll get my new dynasty rookie rankings based on where the teams are, where the prospects are selected. And then you get the draft projections notebook. It's only been out for about 2 weeks now, but 400 players are almost in that. Tabs for every position, offense and defense, every single defensive position as well, and O-line, snapshot of the player, how they win, some developmental areas, their combine testing and combine measurements. And this is put in an order and based on everything I am hearing, reading, and listening from the best in the industry, not some consensus board that has hundreds of rankings. This is from the best in the industry, the guys that I trust the most, the guys that I think have the best track record. I only use about 5 to 7 sources for this. And I merge and I listen to everything they say and I create this projections board. And it's had tremendous success. We've been anywhere from 27 to 20 to 30 picks in round one projecting the players. We've been anywhere from 82 to 87 in terms of projecting the top 100. And we've been anywhere from like 215 to 224 projecting every pick in the NFL draft. It's the best way to support us. I know there's so many great things out there to purchase and free content as well. But if you could spare $9.99, we really need it. We really could use the support. Every dollar goes right back into the company to help us continue to do what we do here at Saturday to Sunday. If you've bought it in the past, please consider purchasing it again. I know you've probably gotten a few emails letting you know the notebooks are available. I think there'll be one more that'll go out the day of the draft or the day before. Please consider purchasing it if you've already purchased it again. If you've been a long-time listener but never purchased it, if you can, please help out. And if you're a new listener, it would mean a lot if you check it out. I think you'll find a lot of value in it in a variety of ways: draft weekend, dynasty rookie drafts, dynasty drafts, trades and stuff like that. I think you'll find a lot of use for it, and $9.99 only for all 3 of those notebooks, not just $9.99 each. It's $9.99 for all of them. So for less than $10, you get access to all these notebooks that you can use in a variety of ways. So on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.